right, so in math, we're still going to be working on multiplication, but we're going to be focusing on how to find the area of shapes. So we're jumping ahead to lesson 14, page 301. You can tear that out and just slide it under your book for right now. We aren't going to get up and go put those in our mailboxes. So tear out page 301. And the next page that we'll actually be starting on is 303.
You want us to go put this on?
No, I said slide it under your book so that we can get started with our lesson. All right, so lesson 14 is saying explore area. It asks, how can you measure the area of a shape? There are different ways you can measure a rug in the shape of a rectangle. A, draw a rectangular rug to the right and label its length and width. And then B says, how could you measure the length and width of the rug? Well, let's focus on that. Is everybody on page 303? Okay, let me get a writing utensil here. So let's draw a rectangular rug. So just a rectangle box, right? Let's draw that rectangle box. It says to label its length and width. Friends, do you know which one is the length and which one is the width of a rectangle? The length is how long something is, and the width is how wide something is. So what is this right here?
Width.
That is the width. So we're going to label that this is width. So which one is the length? The one going across like this, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So this is length. You're going to have to always remember that. Length and width. So we just took care of A. Now, B asks, how could you measure the length and width of the rug? Would you just look at it and say, oh, that's about 2 inches by 4 inches? Is that how you'd measure it?
No.
No. How could you measure it? What would you use to measure, like if we had to measure this rug, what would you use to measure it? Amy?
A ruler.
Yeah, a ruler. What if it was a real rug on the floor that we needed to measure? Would we want to use a ruler for a rug? What else could we use? Lucas?
A yard. Wait.
You're right.
Yeah, yard.
A yardstick. Haley?
Could you use a tape measure?
a tape measure? Do you guys know what a tape measure is?
Yeah.
Did somebody say no? The tape measure is the one that you pull out of the little container and it stretches way out. It's like a ginormous ruler, isn't it? Okay, so those are ways that you could measure the length and width of a rug. Look at part 2. Area is the amount of space a flat shape covers. The area of a rug is the amount of floor space it covers. So looking over here to the right, do you see the rug? It's like they have a rug placed on top of a tile floor, right? How could we measure the area of that rug if it's just in a picture like that one? What would we do? Jenny? We could, but if you look at the floor that that rug is on, what is each one of these?
A square.
It's a square. It's like using tiles, right? So when we're when we're given something like this, Haley, you can put your hand down. When we're given something like this, we can use those square tiles to help us figure that out. All right? If we look at that rug, is it perfectly lined up with the lines of the tile? It could be, but it's not. Do you see how it could be? Like if we were able to move this, would we move it down? Would we move it up? What would we need to do to line it up perfectly with those tiles? We would have to do some shifting. Which way would we need to shift it? Up or down? Everybody, up or down? Up. And to the left a little or to the right?
Left.
Exactly. So if we shifted it, it's actually going to move here, isn't it? I can't draw a straight line. So now, underneath this rug, how many tiles are there? We're having to do some visualization, aren't we? Because we can't actually see the lines underneath that rug, can we? Could we count how many tiles there are?
Yeah.
How many is this?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
So 8? 4 on the top and 4 on the bottom. Okay. So there's 8 total. So the rug would be 8 like square units because these tiles are a square unit. So we use those tiles and let's see, how do you think you could measure the area of the rug to the right? What did we use? Everybody? Okay, so use the tiles. We're going to write that down. Use the tiles that the rug covers or that are underneath the rug. What do you think?
That the rug covers.
That the rug covers. Use the tiles the rug covers. And it covered how many?
8.
So it covered 8 what?
Tiles.
8 tiles. All right, now look down at 3. How are your ways of measuring in problem 1? Do you see the ideas we came up with up here in problem 1? A ruler, a yardstick, a tape measure. How are those ways different, those ways of measuring different from how we measured in problem 2? Haley?
Those all have like numbers and tell you where each inch or foot or something.
Yeah, they have a specific unit of measurement on them, whether it's an inch or a foot, or maybe we have to measure in centimeters. Okay, do tiles have a specific unit of measurement like that?
No.
No, they're a little different, aren't they? They're more of a square unit, like we had talked about. Okay, we're not going to worry about writing things down for that. Let's look at the next page. Are you turning your page? I never remember in your books. Okay, so now we talked about with those tiles, that unit of measurement isn't like how we measure with a ruler or a tape measure or a yardstick or a meter stick. Square units are just perfect squares that are used to identify how we could measure something. So circle the rug below. If we look over here, this is 1 square unit. Circle the rug below that you think shows the correct way to use square units to measure its area. Is it this first one or is it the second one? Circle the one you think is correct. How they're using the square units. Like they're setting those square units on top of that rug. Circle the rug that you think is correct. Did you circle the first or the second rug, everybody?
The first.
I agree with you. You needed to circle the first one. What's wrong with this one? Or is it fine? It's okay. No? Raylan, what's wrong with it? Nice and loud. Pull your mask down so I can hear you well.
It doesn't line up correctly.
Do you agree with her?
Yeah.
It doesn't line up correctly. And what do you notice about some of those squares?
On top of.
Are they overlapping on top of each other?
Yeah.
Okay. So you circled the first one. Now explain why your choice in part A correctly measures area. Why does it correctly measure area? Does it go along with what Raylyn had said?
Yeah.
Okay, so what could we write down here? It's basically saying, why did we choose A? Because what?
Because they're perfectly lined up and not overlapping.
So it's perfectly lined up?
Yeah.
Oh, lined up and not overlapping? Is that what we agree on?
Yeah.
I'll get out of your way in just a second, Connor. Sorry. Ooh, I didn't lift my pen when I was trying to dot my I. That word is actually overlapping. Okay, so then once you have this written, I want you to count the square units in the correct rug and write it on the line underneath C. What is the area of the rug in square units? Write that down. Can you count that high?
Yes.
If you need to, you can use both hands, just in case you get stuck. Natalia's still trying to figure it out. She's taking her socks and shoes off. Just kidding, she's not either. All right, what is the square units of this rug then, everyone? 6. You're correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good job. Give yourself a pat on the back. You're so smart. You're already figuring area using square units out. Okay, look down at 5. Explain how you would use square units to find the area of a shape. What did you do? You did what?
Lined them up. Wait, counted.
Counted what?
The square.
You count each square. Plain and simple, right?
Yeah.
So what are we going to write down for 5? I count what? Each square. Man, that was a tough one to answer. Remember the ow in the middle of a word? Is it OU or OW in the middle of a word? Ow. OU. Right, then we're going to go on to that box that has square unit in the middle. Everybody ready for this page?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a square unit. How are we going to put that in our own words, what a square unit is? What do you think, Connor?
I think a square unit tells you how much an area of something is.
Okay, so what are you thinking? Maybe we can put your ideas together. Okay, so what are you thinking?
I was kind of thinking like a square unit can help you measure know the length and width of the shape.
Okay, so let's say the area, I think Connor, oops, I'm not writing anything, am I? Sorry. Okay, let me get my writing pen going here. The area. Am I writing big enough for you to be able to see it okay in the back?
Yeah.
Lucas, can you see it okay? Okay, so the area of a square, right? Because that's what we're talking about, a square unit. The area of a square, kind of what Connor had said. Now I'm going to incorporate what Haley had said with a length. Should I use length? I'll do with a side length, because all the sides in a square are what?
The same.
Yeah, they're all the same length, aren't they? So the area of a square with a side length of, we're just going to say 1 unit, because it's not like 1 inch or 1 foot or 1 yard. We don't know what it is, so we're just calling it a unit, that one individual square. go over to the illustrations. Let's draw that rug that we had, but then let's give it some square units. Now this says square unit. That means how many? Square unit. Just one, right? So I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I'm just going to kind of shade in how many for a square unit?
One.
I'm just going to shade in 1. So this right here is what?
1 unit.
It's 1 unit, right? It's 1 square unit. 1 square. Do you know how to abbreviate square in math? SQ period. So 1 square, abbreviate square. Let's get in that habit. It's better than writing out the whole word. 1 square unit. Okay. And some more examples for this. Let's draw 3 different sized squares. So we'll do a cute little square first. Then we'll do a medium square. I can't draw perfect squares. And then let's do a bigger square. Those are not squares, are they?
No.
Those are more rectangles.
Well, your little one looks like a square.
Okay, so in a square unit, sometimes it can be a specific unit of measurement. So for this one, it could be 1 inch. I'm going to abbreviate inch. So if this is 1 inch, what would the width be of it?
1 inch.
Also 1 inch. Is it 1 inch all the way around on a square?
Mm-hmm.
Would it be 1 inch up here? 1 inch over here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now let's go to this middle square. Let's say that we're measuring these in centimeters. Do you know how to abbreviate centimeter? What 2 letters abbreviate centimeter? Lucas? No? cm. So let's say that this is 1 centimeter. If this is 1 centimeter, what is our width?
1 centimeter.
It is also 1 centimeter. Is it going to be 1 centimeter all the way around our square?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Let's do feet for this one. Do you know how to abbreviate foot or feet in math? Amy? F-T. So we're going to label this 1 what?
Foot.
Foot, F-T. What is our width of this square then?
1
1 foot. Also, all the way around it would be 1 foot on each side. So this means we have a square inch, a square centimeter, and a square foot. Non-examples. Would be a circle. What else would be a non-example of a square unit? Jenny,
Triangle.
a triangle. Connor,
Hexagon.
a hexagon. So basically any other shape, right?
Mhm.
Any shape that you want to draw. Maybe you want to draw a decagon or a parallelogram. Okay? Even a line, friends, is a non-example. Okay, do you have your examples, or sorry, your non-examples jotted down?
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I made this so big that I can't see the bottom part of my paper, I'm going to get rid of all this. Are you good to move on?
Here.
Is that a yes from everybody?
It kind of looks like a funny,
Yeah,
like
looks like a goofy face.
yeah.
Not anymore. Okay, let's look at part 2 on that page. How do you think you could measure the area of the rug to the right in square units? Do you remember practicing with that other rug on the page before?
Yeah.
Now, is this perfectly lined up on the squares?
No.
So if we shift it a little bit, would it be perfectly lined up?
Mhm.
Can you figure out how many square units this rug is? Figure that out right now. Think you have it figured out?
Mhm.
Write down how many square units you believe it to be. So if I shift this rug to the right a little bit and down a little bit, would it line up perfectly on those tiles?
Mhm.
It would. All right. How many square units does this rug cover? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
15
All right. So 15 what?
square
Do
units.
you remember how to abbreviate square?
Mhm.
Yeah.
How?
SQ.
SQ period and then the word units.
I just put square since I had extra time.
So it is 15 square units. I'm just looking through here. Okay, let's take a look at problem 3 and 4 because 3 and 4 go together. I don't know, does 5 go with it?
Yeah. I think
Yes,
so.
it does. I'm actually going to make this a little smaller so that we can see all of it on my page too, okay? Oh. Circle the rug below that you think shows the correct way to use square units to measure its area. Do that quickly. Which rug is correctly shown using square units? First or second? First. I concur. Do you know what concur means?
Agree.
Yes. Explain why you chose that rug. For part 4, explain, write down why you chose that rug. It's just like what we had said before, right? Which I don't remember exactly what we said, but that's okay. Did you say that they line up perfectly or something along those lines?
I said they.
That they have no overlapping parts?
I said they are not overlapping.
They're not overlapping? There are no gaps? There's no open spaces? They're lined up and spaced evenly? All right, figure out what the square unit of, well, square units, because there's more than one. What's the square units of that rug? Write it down on 5 if you haven't already. Okay, how many square units is this rug, friends?
10.
It is 10 square units. There are 2 rows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it like an array?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many rows did we just say?
2.
How many in each row?
5.
Do we know what 2 times 5 is?
10.
Huh, I'll be darned. All right. So now, looking at the next page, says look at square A to the right. Oh, you guys don't have rulers, do you? Okay.
We need to put that on the list for when we shop for school supplies.
Well, I didn't put them on there because I have a classroom set of them. What do we have, 7 here today? Yes. Noah, if you don't have a ruler at home, let me know. I can send one home to you. Okay, so part A, looking at the square A to the right here. Point to square A on your, or in your workbook. This one, right? Use an inch ruler to measure the length. Do you remember which way length goes?
Mm-hmm.
Length and width of the square unit. So they're talking about, hey,
Oh.
the square unit. Point to the square unit. The one square is the square unit. Okay, so let's measure that. Use your ruler. I'm pretending like This is my ruler. Now, mine is a lot bigger than what's on your paper, right? Because I have it increased in size. But you need to line up the end of your ruler with the left side of the square. You have yours lined up?
Yeah.
What number, we're doing the square unit. What number on that right side is on your ruler? It's lined up with it.
1.
So if I had my paper, I know that, oh, it's not gonna, it keeps moving because I'm touching it. But I don't know if you can see that when I have my paper the size of yours on your desk, it lines up with my what's this unit of measurement on your ruler? One what? 1 inch. So, on this line, what digit are we going to write underneath part A? 1. It is 1 square inch. So if it's 1 inch here, what is it for the width? 1 inch. What would it be up here? 1 inch. What about this side for the width?
1 inch.
Right, it's a square, so all the sides are the same length. Now, if we find the area of square A, we're not talking about the 1 square unit anymore. We're talking about the area of square A. How many square inches is square A? Just 1? No. Show me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. What do you think it is? For this whole square. Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many square inches is square A? 4 square inches. Let's jot that down on part B. 4 square inches. Friends, how many rows are there in square A? No, 2. How many are in each row? 2. What's 2 times 2?
4.
Oh, makes sense, right? That's what we counted. All right, now look at rectangle B. Each one of these is 1 square unit. Crud buckets. Your ruler that I gave you, I should have given you these others. Because that wooden ruler does not have centimeters on it. So I'm going to give you a plastic ruler now that has centimeters on it. But I want to show you on this ruler, I'm going to show Noah up close first. On this ruler, you can see the inches, the numbers are farther apart. Okay, when you flip it over, the centimeters are the numbers that are closer together. All right, so I'm going to hand you your ruler. I'll get it in just a minute. I'm going to hand you your ruler so that your centimeters are on top, and those are the ones you're going to be using to measure. Do you see how the 1 is closer to the 2 once you get your ruler? Okay, so I'm using the closer together numbers, and I want you to measure the 1 square unit. How large is that square? Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3? What is the size of that 1 square unit, the blue one, in centimeters? Everybody, what is it?
1.
It is 1 square centimeter. So for part A, what are you going to write? 1 square centimeter. Now, let's look at part B. What is the area of rectangle B? So we're looking at the whole thing now. Hold on. Could we count every single square?
Or we
Yeah, but could we think of it as an array?
Yep. Yeah.
How many rows are there?
5.
How many are in each row?
7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know about you, but I know what 5 times 7 is, or what 7 times 5 is. Does anybody else know it? What is it?
35.
35. So it is 35 square centimeters. Isn't that way faster than counting every single box? Yeah. So do you see how we're still using multiplication with our area? Okay. All right. They're giving us weird shapes now. But you notice each one of them has square units inside it, doesn't it? So just because the shapes are weird, it still has perfectly square units inside it. Let's look at this first one. We're going to count in these non-rectangular shapes. We're going to count how many square units it is. Count with me on this, on number 3. So they've done 1, 2, 3. What about this one? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Jot it down. That area equals 10 square units. Do the same thing for 4 on your own. Did you figure it out? 3, 6, 9. So the area equals 9 square units. The rulers aren't to play with. They're laying on your desk right now because we aren't using them. Thank you. Let's look at 5 and 6. How is finding the area of a rectangular shape like finding the area of a non-rectangular shape? So these were our non-rectangular shapes, like the rug, those are rectangular shapes. How is finding the area of both of those the same? What did we do on each one of those? Amy?
We counted each unit square.
Ah, perfect thinking. Let's jot that down. Count each square unit. Sure. She asked if you could abbreviate square. That's totally fine. All right, let's look at 6 together. We have to explain how to find the area of the rectangle, then actually find the area of the rectangle. How would you explain to someone that doesn't know how to find area? How would you explain to them what they need to do? Let's say a 2nd grader walked in here. And they're like, "What are you doing?" And you'd say, "I'm going to help you find the area of this rectangle." What would you say to them though? Jenny.
You just count how many squares are in the whole thing, and that's how much squares you have.
Okay, so she's saying, like what we did up here, right? Count each square unit. Do you agree with that so far? Okay, count each square unit, because it's covered perfectly, isn't it? All right, so count each square unit. That's really all we need to do. What is the total area? Let's write that down. So the area equals what? How many rows are in this array?
2.
How many?
2.
2. How many are in each row?
6.
Do you? I know what 2 times 6 is. Do you?
Yes.
What is it?
Wow.
So the area equals 12 what? Square units.
I only put 12 in the area.
12 square units, because when we're talking about finding the area, we are finding the length of measurement that they're giving us. In this case, it's just a square unit. Got it?
Yep.
Going, gone? Okay. Here's what I'm going to have you do. Tear out 309 and then put your workbook back in your crate. So tear out 309.
That's the big side of my sticky. I just put it there, so maybe it will.
Put your name on 309 and then set your pencil down for me. So you've torn out 309, your name is going on 309, and you're setting your pencil down. Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, Connor. Thank you, Lucas. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Raylan. Haley, get your name on your paper, kiddo. All right, so pencil still down because you're gonna listen and look at directions, or listen to and look at directions. All right, so we talked about non-rectangular shapes and rectangular shapes. So rectangular shapes just means it's an actual rectangle. Is this a rectangular shape or a non-rectangular? Non-rectangular, right? But it does have square units in it, correct? Okay, so what you're going to do, not yet, in just a bit, you're going to figure out how many square units are in these rectangular and non-rectangular shapes. Make sense? That's easy peasy, right? Pencil's still down, but you're gonna flip your paper over. Now we're looking at 3 through 7. Okay. You are finding the area of this rectangle, and why don't you just write it off to the side here? But what do you notice? Each one of these equals 1 square centimeters. So do you have to label your answer?
Yeah.
So let's say you think it's 30. It's not 30, so you're not going to write that down. But let's say you think that it's 30. Do you just write 30 and call it good? No, it's 30 what?
30
Square centimeters. Can you abbreviate those?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Look at part 4. Rhea says that the area of rectangle A is 9 square units. Ooh, do you agree? I mean, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but what do you notice about them? Is there something funky about them? What do you notice, Raylan? Okay, they're not lined up. What do you notice about them, Lucas?
That there are square centimeters and centimeters.
What else do you notice about them, Connor?
That there's little squares and big squares.
Are they the same size?
No.
If they're not the same size, are they really square units?
No.
No. So, do you agree with Rhea that it's 9 square units?
Yeah. No.
No. And then you're going to tell why it's not 9 square units. Okay? Look at 5. 5 goes with rectangle B. Rectangle B has, you're going to count how many rows, like we do arrays. How many rows there are, and then how many squares are in each row. Just like we did arrays. 6, they want you to answer how you can skip count to find the area of rectangle B. So you could skip count by 3s, or there's an easier way. Write down the easier way of how you would skip count to find the area of rectangle B, and then actually write the area too. So you're telling what you would skip count by, pencils are down, you're telling what you would skip count by, and then you're actually writing what the answer is for the area. 7, last one, rectangle C. What is the area of rectangle C? Solve and write that down. And then it asks, are you listening, Amy? Because you're going to have to understand this. Because friends, I'm not going to explain this to you when you're working on your own. Got it? You got to use your working memory here. How does this compare? So you're comparing it to rectangle B. Are the rectangles the same size? They're trying to trick you here. So I'm thinking maybe they're going to have the same answer. I don't know for sure, but maybe they're going to have the same answer. But what do you notice about the squares in rectangle B and the squares in rectangle C? That's what they're wanting you to write about. Okay? Because are they identical? Questions. I went over a lot. I'm going to see who was paying attention. Any questions?
What do you do when you're done?
When you're done, you're going to turn it in. We might not get it done before lunch even. We might have to finish it this afternoon. Okay? But regardless, we're going to turn this in. Okay? All right, go ahead and get started on that.